My partner kept saying, I don't want to talk about it. Just drop it when I asked about her past. I replied, okay. Then I hired a background check service instead. What I discovered made me say, we need to talk about Chris. Her face went pale when, original post, I, 32 male, have been with my partner, 29, for almost 2 years. We met through mutual friends at a barbecue, hit it off immediately, and moved in together after 8 months. She was everything I thought I wanted, smart, funny, ambitious. We talked about marriage, kids, the whole future. I was ready to propose by the end of this year. But there was always this wall. Whenever I asked about her life before we met, she'd shut down completely. What was your ex like? I don't want to talk about it. Just drop it. How come you never mention college friends? That's ancient history. Drop it. Who's in this photo? Pointing at a group shot in her old album. Nobody important? Can you please just drop it? At first, I respected it. Everyone has things they'd rather not discuss. Trauma, bad breakups, whatever. I figured she'd open up when she was ready. But it kept happening. Every single time. And it wasn't just about exes. It was about everything. Her previous job. Why she moved to our city. Why she's estranged from her older brother. Any question about anything before 2021 got the same response. Drop it. After about 18 months of this, I finally pushed back. We were planning our future together. I deserve to know who I was building that future with. Babe, I need to understand. We're talking about marriage. I can't marry someone whose entire past is off limits. She got defensive. My past doesn't define me. Why can't you just love who I am now? I do love who you are now, but I need context. Everyone has a past. Well, mine is none of your business. Either accept that or don't. I sat there for a moment, really looked at her. Okay, I said quietly. I'll drop it. She smiled, relieved. Thank you. I knew you'd understand. I didn't understand, but I did drop it with her. The next day, I hired a professional background check service. Cost me $425 for the comprehensive package. Best money I ever spent. Update 1 week later. The report came back faster than expected. 38 pages. I read it twice, then a third time because I genuinely couldn't believe what I was seeing. Let me break down what I found. The name issue. My partner's legal name isn't what she told me. She legally changed it in 2020. Her original name was different, and that original name had quite the paper trail. The marriage issue. She was married before. Not just dated someone seriously, married. For 3 years. To someone named, let's call him the ex-husband. She never mentioned being divorced. Not once. I specifically asked early on if she'd been married before, and she said no. The restraining order issue. Here's where it gets interesting. Her ex-husband has a restraining order against her. Not the other way around. Filed in 2019, extended in 2020. The details were limited in the report, but the existence of it was clear. The Chris issue. Multiple records reference someone named Chris in connection with the restraining order case. Court documents, police reports. The background service couldn't pull the full details, but Chris appeared to be central to whatever happened. The financial issue. A bankruptcy filing in 2020, discharged in 2021. She told me she'd always been responsible with money. She currently has a credit score of 580. I know this because we'd applied for an apartment together and I saw the joint application. She blamed the low score on medical bills. Nope. Bankruptcy. I sat with this information for 3 days. Didn't sleep much. Kept looking at her across the dinner table, wondering who the hell I was actually living with. The lying was one thing. Everyone has stuff they're not proud of. But the scope of it? An entire previous marriage? A restraining order against her? A whole other name? Friday night, I decided to confront her. We were eating takeout on the couch, watching some Netflix show neither of us was paying attention to. Hey, I said, pausing the TV. We need to talk about Chris. She froze, the container of lo mein halfway to her mouth. Her face went pale, and I mean white, like she'd seen a ghost. What? Her voice cracked. Chris. We need to talk about Chris. Where did you hear that name? Does it matter? You told me to drop the questions, so I found answers elsewhere. She put down the food, hands shaking. You had no right. I had no right. You lied to me. About your name. About being married. about the restraining order, about the bankruptcy, about everything. That's not. You don't understand the context. Then explain the context. Right now, who is Chris, and why does your ex-husband have a restraining order against you? She started crying. Hard. The kind of crying that feels manipulative when you're already suspicious of someone. Chris was a mistake. A terrible mistake. What does that mean? I had an affair. Okay. I cheated on my ex-husband with someone named Chris. It got messy. Messy how? Chris was his brother. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the absurdity of it hit me like a truck. You cheated on your husband with his brother? It wasn't planned. It just happened. And when everything came out, my ex-husband lost it. He filed for divorce, got a restraining order, and Chris took his side eventually. Everyone did. So you changed your name and moved here and pretended none of it ever happened. I was trying to start over. I made mistakes, but I'm not that person anymore. You're not that person, but you're still lying about being that person. You told me you'd never been married. To my face. Because I knew you'd judge me. I'm not judging you for having a past. I'm judging you for lying about it for 2 years while we planned a future together. She kept crying. I kept sitting there, feeling absolutely nothing. I need time to think, I said finally. I'm going to stay at my buddy's place for a few days. You're leaving? Over something that happened before I even met you. I'm leaving because you've proven you'll lie about anything to get what you want. I need to figure out if I can ever trust you again. I packed a bag. She followed me around the apartment, alternating between sobbing apologies and angry accusations. You violated my privacy by doing a background check. You violated my trust by constructing a fake identity for 2 years. It wasn't fake, it was just edited. Cool. Enjoy your edited life. I'll be in touch. I left around 11 p.m. Crashed at my buddy's place. Told him everything. He just kept shaking his head. Bro. His brother. Yep. That's actually insane. Yep. Didn't sleep much that night either. Update 2. 2 weeks later. Things escalated. Of course they did. First, she tried the apology route. Texts every few hours. I'm so sorry. Please come home. I'll tell you everything you want to know. We can get through this together. I didn't respond to any of them. I needed space to think. Then she tried the guilt route. If you really loved me, you'd forgive me. Everyone has a past. You're being judgmental. I can't believe you'd throw away 2 years over something that happened before we met. Still didn't respond. Then came the threats. If you don't come home, I'm keeping everything in the apartment. Your stuff will be on the curb by Friday. I'll tell everyone you abandoned me. This is when I realized I needed to get serious. We weren't married, but we've been living together for over a year. In our state, that means certain things about shared property, lease agreements, etc. I contacted a lawyer, explained the situation. She advised me to document everything, all the lies I discovered, all the threatening texts. Review our lease agreement. Both our names were on it. Make a list of all property I'd brought into the relationship. Not move back in until we had a clear separation plan. I spent the next week doing exactly that. Meanwhile, my partner started reaching out to mutual friends. And here's where her true colors really showed. My buddy's girlfriend texted me. Hey, is everything okay? Your partner called me crying saying you left her for no reason and you've been emotionally abusive. Emotionally abusive. I screenshot every text she'd sent me, the threats, the manipulation, all of it, and sent them to our friend. This is what she's been sending me. I left because I discovered she lied about her entire past, including a previous marriage and a restraining order against her. She's now threatening to throw out my stuff. Does that sound like I'm the abuser? Radio silence for a bit. Then, holy crap, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. But not everyone was convinced. Her best friend called me directly. You need to stop spreading lies about her. She told me about the background check. That's literally stalking behavior. It's a legal background check. Anyone can do one. And everything I found is public record. You invaded her privacy. She invaded my trust by lying for 2 years about being married, having a restraining order against her, and filing bankruptcy. But sure, I'm the bad guy for wanting to know who I was planning to marry. She was going to tell you, eventually. When? At our wedding? After we had kids? Never. She hung up on me. Here's what really got me, though. I did some more digging. Not another background check, just social media research. Found her ex-husband's profile, public posts. Found some old posts about his divorce. One from 2019. 3 years of marriage destroyed because my own blood couldn't keep his hands off my wife. And somehow I'm the one who has to move out while the courts sort this out. Amazing. Another from 2020. Restraining order granted. Finally, some peace. If you're reading this, her old name, stay away from my family. Then I found something that made my stomach drop. A comment on one of his posts from a mutual friend. How's your mom handling everything? His reply, not great. Finding out about the affair basically broke her. She had a heart attack 2 months after everything came out. She's recovering, but it's been rough. His mother had a heart attack, at least partially from the stress of discovering her daughter-in-law was cheating with her other son. I wasn't dealing with someone who made a mistake. I was dealing with someone whose actions had devastated an entire family and who had zero remorse about it. Zero acknowledgement. Just reinvention. New name, new city, new victim. Update 3. 1 month later, final update. Getting out was harder than I expected. Not emotionally. I was done emotionally the moment I read that background report. But practically, that took time. The apartment. We were both on the lease with 4 months left. I offered to pay my half until the lease ended or until she found a roommate. She refused, demanding I keep paying the full rent because you're the one who left. My lawyer sent a letter clarifying my legal obligations. Half, not full. She backed down. My belongings, she'd try to throw my stuff out. Literally put boxes on the curb. But I'd already documented everything I owned with photos and receipts. Showed up with my buddy in a truck while she was at work. Got everything out. She came home to find my key on the counter and a note saying lease payment will arrive on the 1st. Don't contact me again. The mutual friends. Some believed her victim narrative. Lost about 4 people I considered close friends. Others saw through it once I shared the evidence. Kept the ones who mattered. The entitled escalation. This is where it got wild. About a week after I moved out fully, I got a letter. From a lawyer. Her lawyer. She was threatening to sue me for intentional infliction of emotional distress and invasion of privacy for the background check. Wanted $15,000 in damages. I literally laughed out loud. Showed it to my lawyer. She laughed too. This is baseless, she said. Background checks using public records are completely legal. She has no case. This is intimidation, pure and simple. We sent back a response that basically said, go ahead and file. Discovery will be interesting when all her lies become part of the court record. Also, here's a counter-demand for the $2,400 in shared expenses she never reimbursed me for during our relationship. Never heard from her lawyer again. But she wasn't done. 2 weeks later, I got a message from her ex-husband. He'd found me somehow, probably through mutual connections or social media. Hey, I heard through the grapevine that you were involved with her current name. I don't know how much you know, but I wanted to reach out. If you need to talk or want to know anything, I'm here. I know what it's like to have your world turned upside down by her. I called him the next day. We talked for almost 2 hours. He told me everything. The affair had gone on for almost a year before he caught them. His brother had been living in their spare room temporarily after a job loss. The betrayal from both of them had nearly destroyed him. He'd spent years in therapy. The restraining order was because she kept showing up at my work, he said. She couldn't accept that I didn't want to reconcile. She called my new girlfriend. She showed up at my parents' house once. It was harassment, plain and simple. She told me she made mistakes, but she's not that person anymore. He laughed bitterly. She said the same thing to me after I caught her, and to the therapist we saw, and to my brother, apparently, when she was convincing him to throw away his relationship with me. She's always not that person. The problem is, she keeps being that person. He asked me one question that stuck with me. Did she ever actually apologize? Like, take full responsibility without making excuses? I thought about it. No. It was always I made mistakes, but, or that happened because, or you don't understand the context. Yeah, that tracks. She's incapable of genuine accountability. Everything is someone else's fault or someone else's failure to understand. Before we hung up, he said something I appreciated. For what it's worth, I'm sorry you went through this. But I'm also glad you found out before you married her or had kids. That's the trap I fell into. Getting out is so much harder when there's legal ties or children involved. Here's where things stand now. I'm out of the apartment, living in a small one-bedroom that's entirely mine. It's quiet. I like it. The lease ends in 3 months. I'll send my half of the rent until then, as agreed. After that, I never have to think about her again. She's apparently telling everyone who'll listen that I traumatized her by leaving, that the background check was abusive, that she was finally ready to be honest, and I didn't give her a chance. Cool story. The people who matter know the truth. My lawyer sent a formal cease and desist after she kept texting me from new numbers. Since then, silence. Beautiful, peaceful silence. The ex-husband and I actually grabbed coffee last week. Weird to become friendly with your ex's ex, but there's something bonding about surviving the same person. He's doing well now. Remarried. Has a kid on the way. Says it took him years to trust anyone again, but he got there. I don't know if I'll get there. The trust issues are real. I thought I knew this woman. Thought I was going to marry her. Turns out I was in love with a character she created, not the person underneath. Some people in my life have asked if I regret doing the background check. Like maybe ignorance would have been bliss. Nah, I regret that it was necessary. I regret that I was with someone who made it necessary. But the check itself? That saved me from marrying a pathological liar with a history of destroying families and zero accountability. She wanted me to just drop it. So I did. I dropped her. Entirely. The Chris thing still gets me sometimes. Imagine being so entitled that you think you can sleep with your husband's brother, blow up an entire family, and then just reinvent yourself and pretend it never happened. Imagine lying to someone for 2 years about your previous marriage, your name, your financial history, everything. And when caught, imagine playing the victim. That's a level of entitlement I can't comprehend. And I'm grateful I don't have to try to comprehend it anymore. To anyone reading this who's getting stonewalled about a partner's past, trust your gut. If someone refuses to share anything about who they were before you, there's usually a reason. And that reason usually isn't good. It cost me $425 and 2 years to learn this lesson. Consider it tuition for a class I never wanted to take. Moving forward, one day at a time. Edit. A few people asked about Chris, the brother. For what the ex-husband told me, Chris moved across the country and they haven't spoken since 2019. The family is still fractured. Their parents basically had to choose sides, and holidays are apparently a nightmare of logistics to keep everyone separated. All because 2 people couldn't keep their hands off each other. Edit 2. Yes, I know background checks exist in a moral gray area. But when someone refuses to answer any questions about their past while planning a future together, you do what you have to do. I don't regret it.